We asked Western University students what they thought about various issues affecting them in the upcoming election. Among them are housing. There is a proposed bylaw that would limit the number of unrelated residents under one roof to 3. The Gazette asked students what they thought about this bylaw.
I think they shouldn't do that, just because if they do that, then they won't have enough housing.
I think that there should be more people to live in a house because it's more economical for students especially.
Well, that's part of the student experience, is living with a bunch of your friends in a house. It's part of that experience of going to university and learning how to live with people that aren't your family.
I think a lot of people who have to pay for their own housing would prefer to live with more people because then rent is obviously cheaper.
This year, London has had their biggest incoming freshman class. We asked students whether or not they thought London's residential structure is able to keep up with the demand.
I don't really think there's going to be enough, especially if Western residences can't really fill the capacity. I don't know how London will with like all the extra residents.
This is the largest first year class that we've had at Western, and I'm only assuming that's going to go up as the years go by, so that definitely will become an issue later on. Maybe not so much now, but I have a feeling it will come into play in a couple years from now. Off campus, definitely there's a lot of opportunity for housing. All the students do have houses, and there's res and stuff like that too. It doesn't have to be close. There's always Fleming and stuff like that too.
I mean, they put up some new apartments on Richmond. I don't know as much about. I've never had problems finding student housing, but obviously with new cohorts of students coming in over 6,000 or something in first year, then that's going to be something that we're going to need to see over the next 3 years at Western.
Here is what Ward 6 candidates said about this issue.
For me, there's obviously an economic and an ethical perspective on that. So the economic perspective is that I don't want to reduce the number of unrelated tenants from 5 to 3 because I know that it will, first of all, this is targeted towards students, let's be clear. And I want to make life affordable for students, and the one thing that this would do would actually increase rent for students. Once you reduce the number of people living in a home, in a rental home, you're increasing their rent as an unintended consequence. The ethical perspective is that, look, if 5 consenting adults decide to live under the same roof, I think they should have the right to do that.
I'm not very fond of absentee landlords who rent out numerous amount of rooms to collect the most amount of money and then let the place go to disrepair and don't come by and do the snow removal or cut the grass.
Section 35 of the Planning Act does say that you can't zone based on differences between related and unrelated people. So, and clearly that's what this is aiming. This could be interpreted as aiming to do that. Beyond that, I think 3 is a very low number. I think it's, certainly when I was a student, I lived in groups of 1 or 3. I usually lived in groups of 4. We have a 5-bedroom limit on houses, so I don't see the connection between 5 bedrooms and 3 students. So I see a lot of problems with that.
Well, first of all, you can't limit people by relation in a house. So what the city right now is considering, and it's gone to committee, is what is the relationship between a boarding house and how does it relate to the R1 single-family designation? What I'd like to see is I'd like to see those bylaws cleaned up. I'd like to meet, and I've already got a commitment to meet with your student council, to meet with landlords, and to meet with community associations. Let's get together and determine where are we going to have the housing, the short-term housing for students, where are we not going to have it. Because it's not fair to students to put them in substandard housing, put them in the middle of neighborhoods where they're not functioning as well as they could, and where maybe they're not even welcome. Let's put students in areas where they're interacting with other people in London, where they're welcome and they have good housing.